Yeah, so I've been up since 4 a.m. Central Time, which is 5 a.m. Our time, which, time zones are a construct. So I don't really understand how any of that works. And
I don't like them, period.
well, the thing is, like, I'm so tired because, like, in my head, I'm like, I got up at 4 a.m. But now that I'm back in New Jersey, I'm like, I got up at 5 a.m. But really, I got up at 4 a.m. And because I was in Iowa, because there's only one flight or like one Allegiant Air only flies to and from Des Moines from the airport nearest me Mondays and Fridays. So I flew out Monday. I came home today, Friday, and I spent a good 4 days there. And then one of my team members came up from Columbia, Missouri, and we went and just hit up all of these clients and just did like we did 4 Ubiquity stack installs, and then met a client who's moving, and then sent them a quote for an entire Ubiquity stack install, which will happen in October. So we just like bum rushed around town all over, and just crushed. That's what you got to do sometimes as an owner. You got to get your hands dirty. We went into
Yeah.
a client who's like, they had their old internet provider ran the fiber in like a 2-inch metal conduit pipe, and the new internet provider was digging outside to run their fiber, and then it rained, and so all the water pooled up and then went through the 2-inch pipe and poured mud water all over their networking gear like 2 weeks ago. Like, they knew we were coming to swap out the networking gear anyway, but like 2 weeks ago, all of their stuff just got mud all over it, and so we had to
Oh,
go there
that's
and like remove all of like a Mac Mini server and a Pegasus RAID or some RAID and some like networking and their UPS. It's just all covered in just brown mud, and like the outlets are all singed and such. And we're like, maybe we shouldn't use these. But cleaned the whole thing up. Took a bottle of 409 to the whole thing because that's all they had in their kitchen. Took a swig of it just to deal with all the mud, and wiped it clean and put a rack, put it clean, give him a stack and a rack and a pat on the back, and then we walked away.
Oh yeah, I'm still recovering from ChannelCon because I don't do time zones well. Like, I don't know, going like to Europe, I'm fine, but
Right,
going out to the west coast of the U.S., it just kills me, and I don't know why.
because it's too little of a difference of time. Right, when you go to Europe, London's 5-6 hours ahead, depending on when you go. That's a half a day.
Right.
When you go to LA, you're spending half a day on a plane, and you're losing the 3 hours on the backside. So you don't feel like it's that much and you're like, oh, I should stay awake and do these things. Like, I remember I went to LA a couple of years ago for work, and we went out for dinner with some friends at like 8 o'clock at night, and I'm like, it's 11:30 my time, and I'm first having dinner. I'm like falling asleep eating bucatini or whatever I was. Some sort of pasta because
Yeah.
fat. And I'm like falling asleep like in it, like because it's like 11:30 at night. But in reality, it's 8:30 at night. Time zones are a construct. Time is a construct. It's best line by Hannibal Buress in that movie Tech. What's up, everybody? Justin here from the All Things MSP podcast. I am here with my good friend, OG host, and podcast producer extraordinaire, Mr. Eric Anthony. Today, we are talking about work travel, time zones, and what I like to call rack stacks and pat on the backs. Well, I got pretty good in 2, considering how tired I am.
Yeah. Well, it was a lot of things that rhymed and alliteration and stuff like that, all in one sentence. So
We were going to talk today a little bit about racks, basically what you have in your rack at home, what I have in my rack at home, and basically what we install or what you used to and what I currently install as our network stack at our clients. Because I have a really weird opinion on what people choose and why. But it wouldn't be a show if I didn't have an odd opinion about things.
that's true. It would be
Uh,
absolutely boring.
it would be. So you just came back from ChannelCon. How was that?
It was good. I mean, it's ChannelCon. It's not your traditional vendor forward show, right? It's
Right.
industry forward show. So there was a lot of great stuff on, diversity, equity, and inclusion, marketing. There's a big push on like video content, which was really good, and then just security still is the hot topic that everybody's talking about. And of course, one of the fun things about ChannelCon when we have it in Vegas, it's usually right around the same time as Black Hat, because
Right.
Black Hat was this week, ChannelCon was last week, and so about halfway through the week last week, the hotel Wi-Fi got compromised.
Well, actually, I have a kind of a similar story. So I was in Iowa this week, and we were staying at a Holiday Inn in Urbandale, and the Wi-Fi was problematic. And one of my guys from Columbia and I we're in town. We were doing a bunch of Ubiquity installs, and he couldn't get the Wi-Fi to work, so he just plugged right into the network and went to 192.168.2.1 or whatever the router address is, and it pulled up a Unify console. And he's like, "Oh, we should tell them that we can fix this." And so I went downstairs, and we had already kind of become friendly with the general manager who was there, and I just named Jody. And I was like, "Here's my card. Your Wi-Fi is not working. We can fix it." And she's like, "I'm going to call my boss right now because our current IT company has not called me back in 4 days or whatever it was." And we went out for dinner and we came back, and she's like, "I called my bosses. They said they're going to call me in the morning and we'll figure something out." And by the next afternoon, all the Wi-Fi was working again. So I'm pretty sure that whilst we may not have gotten the job, the boss has called and said, "Hey, there are some guys in my lobby right now who are pitching on fixing the thing that you haven't fixed in weeks. Fix it now." And all of a sudden, the Wi-Fi completely changed. The router address changed. The splash page changed.
Yeah.
And now it didn't say powered by Unify. It said powered by Holiday Inn. Like all of these things got put into place. And look, so worst case scenario is I fixed the Wi-Fi for everyone in the hotel while I was there. Maybe we'll get it, maybe we'll not. But it's just really funny those kind of scenarios when you run into them, because you have to be able to take advantage of those also. Like, oh, it's Ubiquity, we do Ubiquity. Let's help you out, kind of thing. So
Well, and I think it's honestly, I think it's kind of all of our responsibilities that when we see something that's not working or broken, that we should say something about it. Now, I know this is not what we said we were going to talk about, but we've started down this road anyway with hotel
sure.
Wi-Fi.
Okay.
What do you do when you're on the road? What's your standard keep myself secure while I'm traveling on the road configuration?
Don't ask me these kind of questions. I don't care. No, I'll connect to the hotel Wi-Fi, but I will not do banking. Like I as an IT provider, I know what the IT provider of the hotel can see me do, not do, whatever. So I will not do banking off the hotel Wi-Fi. If I have to do banking, I'll do it from my phone, or I'll connect to my phone as a mobile hotspot. But for the rest of the stuff, you know, it's normal HTTPS traffic, 98% of my work, so I'm not terribly concerned. As long as I know I'm on the right Wi-Fi and like they give me a password, or I have to go through their splash page and their terms of services or whatever it is. But I will not connect to like the airport Wi-Fi's ever. Newark Airport has free Wi-Fi, and like in a pinch, or maybe I'll just throw my phone on it if I just need to like download a file off of Slack or something. But I do not trust the Boingo network that's in all the airports, right? I don't join that one, because I've seen the Newark Airport is like _ free EWR network, and I've seen it list more than once, which tells me that like somebody's spoofing or doing something silly. And most people wouldn't recognize that; they would just think it's some sort of like UI glitch or whatever it is. So I will try not to, if I don't have to, connect to an airport Wi-Fi. But in the hotel, especially, I was in Iowa for 4.5 days. Like, I'm not going to not connect to their Wi-Fi. And also, you never know about cell service, so you got to do what you got to do. You know, there are certain things. Also, keep in mind, I'm on a Mac, so it's a little bit different. I think if you're on a Windows machine, you should definitely be running, some sort of Windows firewall, Windows Defender, whatever they're calling it these days. I don't necessarily I don't necessarily go with the flow of like you have to use a VPN to do everything, because those are the people who have like NordVPN and like not saying that like I don't like NordVPN because I would love for them to be a sponsor, but at the same time, like there have been VPNs in the past where like they claim that because their data is in a non-extradition country, that it means that your data is safe and you can do whatever you want on it. But like that also means you don't know what they're doing with your data,
Yeah.
right? So it's not always peaches and cream when it comes down to that kind of stuff. So I don't always believe that. If I have to do client work, I try to connect to their VPN and be on their network. Back when people had servers in house, but now that most of my clients are on this amazing cloud file share service that I found that has like an amazing subset with workflows and tasks and an entire department dedicated to security and governance. I won't say who. It's not Dropbox. But since most of the stuff is done through that, I don't really have to worry about it because all the HTTPS traffic anyway. So it's not that big of a deal for me. So I'm okay with the hotel Wi-Fi. I'm not okay
Yeah.
with free Wi-Fi in Starbucks or in the airport or anything like that. I will
Right.
say my Starbucks. I will bend on the Starbucks thing if I'm in another country and I do not have data on my phone. So like I was in Japan. I mean, we're talking about years ago at this point, and I needed to get online. And if I used any data on my like Japanese SIM card that I borrowed, it was immediately like $20. And I was in a Starbucks, and I was like, I could just use their Wi-Fi for free. And so that I risked it for the biscuit because
Yeah.
when you look at Wi-Fi names and they're all Japanese, and there's one that just says Starbucks, you're like, got it.
Yeah. I'm probably a little more paranoid than you are. Um,
Yeah.
so I actually, well, and I, at least last year, this year, not so much, but last year I was traveling a lot. I
Yeah.
was in a new hotel at least every other week, right? If not every week. And so I ended up buying one of those little portable routers. It's like 4 inches by 4 inches by an inch tall.
Hmm.
And it allows you to not only plug in if there's a cable, which is great, but also it allows me to uh, connect to Wi-Fi through that router, and then my devices connect to my router. It gives me another basic firewall, so it's one more step than all the other guests in the hotel that somebody's got to break through. But it
Right.
also gives me the convenience of being able to run all of my devices through my router instead of having to connect each one to the splash page and everything, and maybe only being limited to one device at a time, which is ridiculous. uh
Right.
so I do that, and then if I'm not doing that, I'm typically hotspotting through my phone.
I've seen ads for those routers, and I think conceptually speaking, I think they're pretty cool and they're very secure, right? Because like most of them are basically just like Raspberry Pis with some added things, which is nice because like you could, like you said, have multiple devices connected, and you only need to go through the splash page once. You could throw things in there like Pi-hole, which is for ad blocking and security things like that. So yeah, I think there's a lot of benefits to using those things. Again, when I'm at a hotel and I'm on site all day long, like when I get back to the hotel, if I'm on my laptop, I'm reading CNN, I'm looking at Facebook, and then I'm on my phone watching TikTok or playing like Pokemon Go. I'm not uh I'm not doing a whole lot of client stuff at night in the hotel anyway. I'm doing client stuff at other clients, which I'm setting up their networks. So I don't care what's seen or done because I'm the one in charge of it anyway. Um, but then what ends up happening and what I should have done this morning when I got back was like I have to now do all of my like banking for the week because I didn't do it while I was away.
Right.
So now I got to
Right.
like catch up on all that, right? But I do like those little devices. I also the other thing is for me, and again, I don't like carrying anything. Like I hate having like whenever I'm carrying bags, like if I go shopping or whatever it is, carrying bags. I have this weird thing where like if my hands are not free, like I feel like I'm always gonna get into a fight with somebody, and I need my hands free. So I don't like having anything in my hands, and that translated to like how much stuff I have in my backpack, right? Like I have this really awesome backpack. I bought an eBags backpack. I got a Virtua patch on it. It's our logo. It's the whole nine. It's got like all these pockets and slides and whatever, and like it can hold like a lot. But like I don't want to just have all that on my back, right?
Right.
I just want my laptop. Like I just want to take out my laptop and use it. And because it's a MacBook Pro M series, the battery lasts all day, so I don't have to charge it at night at the hotel. So it's just my laptop in the back, and like that's it.
Yeah.
The less I have to carry, the better. The other thing is like I can't imagine trying to go through TSA with like all this gear because I never check a bag. Or sorry, yeah, I never check a bag. I always carry on, right? So imagine like trying to go through TSA and they seeing like because all those portable routers are always like they got fins and they're purple and yellow and cool and
Yeah.
weird looking and techno dizzy bullshit. And like, a TSA agent is going to be like, is this a bomb? Like,
No, I get it. And actually, another funny TSA story. Somebody that I know well may or may not have accidentally taken their Swiss Army knife all the way through TSA twice to
nice.
Vegas and back last week without getting checked.
Nice. Government's keeping us safe.
Yeah. The only thing I can think of is that it was, I think, underneath an iPad. And that's probably the only thing that kept it.
Oh, like in their backpack?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. True story. My dad used to be in vending, and I remember we were traveling with him somewhere, and he had just done his route before we went to the airport. So he had a bag full of coins and a bag full of like just dollar bills in his carry-on suitcase, and they pulled his bag across, and they like really started questioning him. And my dad, oddly enough, was just like, "What? There's nothing wrong with it. What's wrong with having a bag of coins?" And they're like, "That could be a weapon." And I just looked at the other day and I go, "Does he look like the kind of person who knows that can be used as a weapon? Come on." Like my dad was like 70 something when this happened. I was like, he's not swinging that bag around. He's gonna try to pay a taxi cab driver nothing but quarters.
In quarters.
I love you, Dad. All right, so back to networks and stuff like that because kind of we're on a little bit on topic. What's your network brand of choice? Because everyone has one, like an ice cream flavor.
So, I mean, I don't really anymore because obviously I
Right.
don't do that.
Because you're out of it, yeah.
Right. Because I'm out of the day to day. Right. But I would say that back in the day, it was pretty much Sonic Wall and Juniper.
Oof.
Now we would use some Netgear for some really inexpensive installs.
Right.
But we're talking about, I go back to the days where we had dual modem Netgear routers where you could plug in two 56K modems on two phone lines and get double the speed.
Tell us what it was like back in the day, Dad.
I mean, that's the way it
Wait,
was.
okay, what do you? Well, yeah, you had to. Wait, so I know you're not doing it now, but what do you have in your house now? What are you using for a firewall at home?
So now I'm using a decent ASUS router. I like those.
Okay.
They tend to have less issues from a security standpoint. Of course, I lock it down as much as I can, right? And
Right.
I've used it in the whole house, 3 stories, without having to do any kind of repeaters, except for I do have a repeater for the Ring cameras because those are a little bit farther out than what
Right.
somebody with a computer or a phone or a laptop is going to use.
I hate those extenders.
Oh,
Those
they're a pain in the
extender
butt.
thing, they are horrible. We went to a client this week while we were away, and he said to me, he showed me a picture of his network stack before we left, so I knew what he had, right? And he had a Meraki firewall, which we ended up taking out because he's out of license, and he had a Zytel Wi-Fi. And he goes, "This is covering the Wi-Fi for our location." And we said, "Okay, fine." And then we got there and we go, "What's your SSID?" And he tells us what it is. And we see his SSID, then we see the SSID 2, ID underscore EXT, EXT2, EXT3, EXT4. I'm like, which one of these do you connect to? He's like, oh, whichever one works. And I'm like, that's not how Wi-Fi is supposed to work, man.
Yeah.
Um, and these companies, they make it sound like it's so easy that you can mix and match the extenders, which you definitely cannot. I hate those things. I think the extender market needs to go away, and I think people need to, at least at home, adopt something that does meshing, whether
Well,
that's Amplify or Eero or whatever
yeah, and
Google's. Is it called Google Nest now?
I
Their network, something like
something
that.
like that, or just Google Wi-Fi maybe.
Yeah,
I looked at those, and my problem was because I really want to segment out my IoT stuff from the rest of the network.
yeah,
And I segmented the kids off on their own network as well, so that I could combination of security and QoS, or yeah,
right.
QoS. Um, so that I can control that a little bit more with different SSIDs. The range extender, it's very single purpose, right? Nobody
Yeah,
else is
yeah, yeah,
connecting to it. It's literally the one camera that hangs off the garage on the way far side of the house from the router.
yeah. I mean, for you, it makes sense, right? You have a purpose for it. So many people just get them because they don't realize, what kind of coverage they have.
Right.
Um, I like the Eeros personally. I liked them better before they were Amazon. But Amazon, if you want to sponsor ATMSP slash link slash ATMSP dot link slash sponsor, um, I like it because one, as an MSP, you can become an Eero Pro pretty easily, which is pretty awesome. So I can actually remotely take care of clients' Eeros without needing their login, which is super, super helpful. And two, they're great for my residential clients, especially in Manhattan, where all the walls are made out of concrete,
Yes.
right? You have a nice apartment on 72nd in Central Park West. Whether it's 3 rooms or 30 rooms, every one of those rooms is 2-inch poured concrete.
Right.
And so, an extender is not going to do you any good. You need to be able to have that line of sight. And the way the Eros worked, especially before when they had the beacons that just plugged right into the wall, like a Vicks, air freshener thing. Um, those things were clutch. They were so good. I love that product. I'm annoyed that Amazon. I mean, I'm not shocked, but I'm just annoyed that Amazon botched that one and did what they did with it. I have at home. I used to do a full Meraki set at home because I had scoundreled up spare parts and then I had to buy licenses for it, and I
Right.
loved it. Except that all of the time I had the Nest cams. I also had the drop cams and whatever they were called before that. Um, the they would always go on and offline a lot because for whatever reason, like the older drop cam versions would only work on certain frequencies within 2.4 and whatever. And then it came time for me to relicense my Meraki equipment, and for like half the price of me relicensing my equipment, I bought a Unify stack. And so when I moved here, I brought over the Unify stack with me, and so I have a UDM Pro, a Unified Dream Machine Pro, two switches, two 24 port switches, full PoE, um, and then a couple of access points throughout the house. And then when I moved here, I actually wanted to like build it out a little bit more. So I bought the new Unify RPS redundant power system, which only worked with my UDM Pro. It doesn't work with my switches because I have the cheaper switches, not the enterprise switches, which is kind of annoying. And I bought a UDM power distribution unit, which is really cool because you can control all the outlets. There's 4 USB-C, and then I think there's like 16 outlets. You can control all the actual outlets over the network. All of these devices are networkable. And then I also bought um, a Ubiquiti smart plug. So it's a small little plug. And what's cool about it is there's a built-in option in the settings that says if internet is not detected, reboot switch. And so reboot power, because you're supposed to plug your cable modem into it. So if the
Yeah.
cable modem goes offline, it detects that it's offline. It will just try to reboot for you. So I don't have to go back in there and try to do it, which is cool. And then I bought a couple of G3 flex cameras, which give me 2K, and I only put them outside, but they give me really, really good coverage. But more importantly than all of that, I found this really awesome product, and I want to talk about this product real fast, and maybe in the edit you can like show a picture of it on Amazon or something like that. Um, there's this company called Rack Studs, and I have a full rack, like a full whatever that is, 7 foot tall rack in my mechanical closet, because I'm a psychopath and decided to buy one day. And I hate dealing with cage nuts. So I have that cage nut crimper thing. I call it the nut squasher. Um, but oddly enough, keep in mind, I also bought a cheap rack. The metal on the left side is thicker than the metal on the right side. So getting the cage nuts in and out, it's like a rope on the ass. So Rack Studs is a plastic solution, or a plastic composite or whatever it
Right.
is. And they make two pieces. They make one where they make individual ones, which on the thinner side just slip right in, click, and you push like a separator in to like hold it open. On the thicker side, it was a little bit tricky. I actually got to use a flathead screwdriver to pull them through. And they make a new one called the Duo, which is just a squeezable piece. So in a 1U, you got the three holes. It squeezes and clips into the middle one and just sticks elbows out on the top two holes. And then they're just hand screwed little, nuts that go on top. And you can use a screwdriver if you want. It it is simple. It is clean. It is gorgeous. You don't have to worry about sizing. Is it an M5? Is it an M6? Is it an A12? Whatever they are.
Right.
Like, it clips right in. I wish the rack stud duos came in more than a 1U size. That's why I needed to buy the individual rack studs, because like the power distribution unit
Yeah.
is a 2U unit without a gap. But I bought also a 48 port patch panel that actually had like, it's just female because my electricians gave me terminated ends, and I don't know how to do wiring, and I can't punch down. And that, oddly enough, was basically, it's two 1U frames with one flat 48 piece on top. So I was able to use two sets of the duos. But the only time I really needed it was for this 2U unit. But by golly, those are some really awesome products. And I would love to be able to, we should try to reach out to them and see if we can get them on, because if you haven't tried rack studs, you should, and you're doing racks, and you're an MSP who's doing a lot of racks, this is going to be a game changer for you in getting your work done. No more cage nuts, no more matching screws, no more, needing a power drill to figure out where everything fits. This is where it's at, rack studs. And they're on Amazon. But they also have their own thing. They make red, there's like a red one and a purple one in the duo, and then they make a couple other smaller components or something.
So what you're saying is we need an affiliate account so that we can start making money on things that we recommend on the podcast.
Yeah, we should do that too.
And so actually the wiring thing, I'm going to ask my controversial question of the day. Okay. For the audience.
All right, ready.
This is for the audience to comment once they're listening to this podcast or watching it on YouTube. 468A or 468B. What's your preference?
Oh, is this the which direction the colors go inside the Ethernet
Yes,
cable?
yes,
Right?
that's which.
See, I know nothing about cabling.
It's the punch down pattern. Yes,
it's a bunch of had it. What? Okay, what's the difference?
I have
For those
no
who
idea.
don't know, right?
I always use 468B because it's newer. I don't know.
Do you think it's newer just because it's B?
Yes. Well, because A obviously had to come first, right?
What if B just meant backwards?
I don't know. It always works for me unless I punched it down wrong.
Right. Yeah, I don't do wiring. I tried. They say like, I got a kit, and they say like, if you do it 100 times, you'll be able to do it in the blind. Nope, never work. I can never really get them to work right. I don't have the dexterity in my fingers.
Yeah. That was the thing. And then once I found a cable guy, I was like, good, I'm not doing cables anymore.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why I bought an entire company, Columbia, Missouri, to do all my cabling for me, because I can't do it. Actually, it was like, after our electricians came and did all the work here, I said I should have just had Kyle come up from Columbia and just do it here for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so that's my own stack. It's a lot of Ubiquiti stuff. And then for my clients, though, Here's where the great debate was: is that prior to starting to acquire companies in the Midwest, we used to only do Meraki because people in New York would spend the money on it, and I would never do Meraki switches. I always think Meraki switches were so insanely expensive. So I would always ever do like a 64, 65, or now a 67, 68, or an 84, and Meraki access points. And I would always just use some sort of like dumb switch because who cared for the most part, with the exception of like one client who has a Meraki switch. And but now I'm getting to the point where Meraki jacked up their prices. Like their licensing went up. And I understand, it's August of 2023 and like the economy is the economy and things like that. Everyone's charging 3% service charges now because we all think that's okay to do. So that way they don't have to eat the credit card fee. But like for companies like Meraki to like almost double their licensing pricing, when I would say Ubiquity is maybe 80% to 90% as good as Meraki. It took me a long time to get sold on it. I'm talking about this has been 3 years in the making. And it's like a sixth the price. Like I kind of feel like it's a no-brainer at that point. The downside is you don't get as good support from Ubiquity as you will from Meraki, but I think they're working on that. I think their email support's fine, but like if I need help with something in Meraki, I can call a number, give them an 8-digit code, and I have someone who can immediately help me without any questions, problems, or issues.
Yeah.
So a lot of my New York clients, Meraki. A lot of my Midwest clients are Ubiquity, and any of my home clients are on Eero. So that's my stack. So I want to hear from you, the listener, once you decide which color coordinated Ethernet cables you want to go with. Which I still want. If anyone can find me a place who does custom dyed Ethernet cables, we've talked about this on previous episodes. What's your stack? What's your stack that you have at home? What's your stack that you have that you sell to your clients, and why? Right. The one reason I groaned earlier when you said Sonic Wall was, and granted, I've been using Sonic Wall a long time, and I'm pretty sure it's changed, but at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if it's not. I hated the fact that I couldn't make a change to a Sonic Wall without it rebooting. If I have to make a change to something in the middle of the day, I'm not waiting until 6 p.m. when I'm going to go have dinner with my family because you wanted to change in your firewall, right? Meraki and Ubiquity they're cloud-based, they change on the fly, and they happen immediately. They do not reboot or take down the entire network. And I feel like any firewall company, Fortinet, Sonic Wall, whatever, they all still do that, and that's such a like old school mentality to doing things. Like there's no reason why it needs to reboot in the middle of the day or it's a lose-lose. It either reboots in the middle of the day or I have to like ruin a part of my evening to do something, which I don't want to do. So that's why I was big on Meraki. Huh?
It's called scheduled reboots.
It doesn't matter if they're scheduled or not. They're on my schedule. And if something goes wrong and it doesn't reboot or it does reboot and it doesn't come back up, what am I going to do?
Yeah. Number one fear of an IT guy dealing with routers or servers. If I reboot it, it's not going to start back up again.
Yeah. That's why I like the Meraki. That's why I like Eero. That's why I like any of the cloud providers, Ubiquity, Meraki, Eero, because those configuration changes happen immediately. There is no reboot necessary for those,
yep.
And that's why I like those. So that's my stack, and what I think about that. That's my take on it. That's my hot take, folks.
Well, and guess what? We've expired another podcast.
I think it sounds so terminal.
Well, we've threatened before, right?
Why don't you just say, like, we've reached the end of our Ethernet line and we need a new box?
Because
it's a pulling cable joke.
That would be called terminating.
Oh, I see where you're going. It's been a long day. And for those who, whether or not this made that in this cut or not, I've been up since 4 a.m. Central Time, which might as well just be 4 a.m. Eastern Time, and we record this late in the afternoon on East Coast time, and I haven't slept. So
That's
uh,
okay. It makes for a better podcast.
there's nothing like zany Justin for a good show. Well, thanks for all for listening to the All Things MSP podcast. Follow us at facebook.com/groups/All Things MSP. See the YouTube of this and my horribly gross, I haven't shaved in 2 weeks beard at youtube.com/at All Things MSP. And if you want to be a guest or a sponsor, atmsp.link/guest or atmsp.link/sponsor. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave us a comment. 5 stars, 1 star. We read them all. We love them all. We love you. Thanks for listening. Bye.
And now that you've watched that mess of a podcast, don't forget to watch one of these and go ahead and click that subscribe button so you get to watch more. Yeah, just go ahead and do it. Click the button and then watch one of the other videos. I'm watching.